Live, where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
It's March 22nd. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. Good evening, everyone. I'm Estela Casas. And for the next half hour, we'll be talking about the pitfalls of social media, mean tweets, damage control, and how to repair an image that may have been tainted by social media. There are some benefits, too. Tonight's show is for everyone, from those in managerial positions to people who use social media as part of their job, and to just everyday people who are having fun with social media. You can email us your comments and questions to ABC7, or actually Estela61@yahoo.com. Our Twitter account is #ABC7Extra, or give us a call at 496-1775. First, some numbers I'd like to share with you, from which is part of the Nielsen Social Insight Suite from Scarborough. It found that Facebook is the second most popular website visited by El Pasoans at 62%. This is second to Google at 77%. Facebook is king in social media usage at 88%, followed by YouTube at 64% and Google at 26%. 74% of El Pasoans who use Facebook are under age 40, and the highest segment of users are men and women between 21 and 29 years old. Some of you have several Facebook accounts, personal, professional, and through your workplace. Some jobs require you to have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, like we here at ABC7. Our reporters who are out in the field have to tweet information from the courtroom and provide up-to-the-minute updates and scores. The information we send out is immediate, and in that urgency, well, we sometimes make spelling errors like you at home do too, and tragically send out quotes that were probably meant to be private. It's likely this happened to you too. You may recall last Tuesday, on top of having to deal with a disappointing first-round loss, the Miners had to deal with a Twitter controversy. Senior Associate AD Jeff Darby criticized player Vince Hunter on UTEP's athletic department's Twitter account. The first tweet read, "Vince Hunter needs to stop protesting every call against him and just play with a hashtag #MinerStrong." Well, later another tweet read, "Talked to 13 NBA scouts here, and the consensus is Vince Hunter lacks the perimeter game to play at the next level." After outrage and backlash from fans, the tweets were deleted. UTEP Senior Associate AD Jeff Darby took responsibility for the tweets and apologized. He said, "I made a tremendous mistake on Tuesday night. There's no excuse, and I feel just terrible. I have apologized to Coach Floyd, Vince, and Bob Stull. Any criticism coming my way is completely warranted. While I have worked in college athletics for 25 years, it is clear that I still have much to learn. I promise to grow from this experience and always portray UTEP athletics and Miner basketball in a positive light moving forward." We reached out to Coach Floyd and UTEP AD Bob Stull and did not hear back, but Stull did talk with our news partners, KROD, and this was an interview with Steve Kaplowitz about Darby's tweets.
Jeff usually trains his student athletes about what they should and shouldn't do as far as the interviews and media, etc. And so for him to make this kind of mistake is really ridiculous, quite frankly, for him to do that.
Stull went on to say that Darby made a poor decision and that he is paying for it. Harmful tweets or Facebook comments can ruin people's lives and career. World Series MVP and former Red Sox pitcher Curt Schilling congratulated his daughter on Twitter. Gabby Schilling had just been accepted to pitch for the Salve Regina Seahawks. But the tweet quickly turned into sexually explicit online comments on the teen. 9 Twitter users, all adults, either lost their job or were thrown off athletic teams. Joining us now is Marina, Monsisvais, and she's a digital content strategist with Digital Alegre. And thanks for being with us tonight. And we have a lot to talk about, and you're an expert in public relations, and you deal with a lot of these things.
I do. First of all, I run Barricuda PR,
yes.
Not Digital Alegre, but that's my good friend Kate, who's amazing, who called me to be here with
yes.
you today. But you're right, for the most part, social media is a living, breathing medium that's alive and well. And, if you put it in context, let's say Facebook were a country. It would be the 3rd largest country, next to China and India, and then the United States. So if you're a brand or a business, it's not really an option to opt out, because this is where your audience is. It's like word of mouth on steroids, if you will.
Okay. Now, what advice do you tell people? I know you deal with a lot of companies in businesses, and
yes.
What do you tell them?
There's a few things. So first of all, it's your opportunity to have a two-way conversation and have a voice with your potential consumer or with your actual consumers. If you have somebody that's really passionate about what you do, then you know, they get to know you better and then spread the word for you, and then all of a sudden you have advocates for you and your business, and that's really nice to have that conversation. You know, it's no longer a one-way of communicating. It used to be, you know, TV and radio, you're kind of talking out, but with social media, you're having a conversation. And
with a lot of people that you probably don't even know.
No, and that's the thing. You know, all of a sudden your consumer has a face, you as the brand has a voice, and it just kind of makes everything come together and flourish nicely.
Now, for professionals, what do you have to say with them, you know, when there's a nasty comment out there?
You know, comments and tweets, you know, they're kind of different things. So part of pushing stuff out there is dealing with those negative comments. You know, it's an opinion that people have, and you're not really there unless it's something completely harmful and just bad and wrong, you know, and mean. That's going to be detrimental to a person. Then yes, you know, you have that control to edit them. But for the most part, it's about having that conversation, and not everybody's going to agree with you. I mean, I think you see it on your social media all the time, you know, but there's a line that can be crossed, and absolutely, it should be edited. But for the most part, you're having a conversation, and it's part of dealing with those consequences.
Right before we went on, we were talking about this just being common sense.
That's really it. You know, we were talking about when email came out. You know, some people would go fly off the handle, send something really fast, and then it would get forwarded, and all of a sudden, it's out there, and that wasn't the intention. A lot of those email rules that we're all now accustomed to it's a good idea to apply that principle to your social media. You know, you have to understand that whatever you push out there, even if it gets deleted, it has a digital footprint. So when it's out, it's out there
forever.
Yeah, it's out there forever. Even if you did take it off, somebody saw it. You know, those UTEP tweets, they got deleted, but obviously everybody saw them, and we're still talking about them, you know, 4 or 5 days later.
Yeah. Now, what do you tell people that quite don't understand? Is it the younger population that probably doesn't understand? It's not that they don't have common sense, but maybe they just don't in the urgency, or that it is fun to get the word out.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and it's a good time, and it's, you know, it's fun to share what's happening, but at the same time, you know, common sense. If you're looking for a job, or if you know that you want to be gainfully employed sometime in your future, you should consider that your digital footprint is out there, and employers are looking at that. It's also a tool. You know, if you're really good at using a site like LinkedIn, that's how you know, professionals are finding and recruiting you know, young workforce people and old workforce people too. So you know, you want to make sure you have a good presentation and a good representation of who you are out there, because you never know who's watching.
Frankly, I have a blog, I have a Facebook account, but I am not on Twitter or on Instagram. And we were talking about this earlier, that you should use the social media that you are comfortable with. So how do you choose?
Well, you know, like, it seems like you know that you're not comfortable with Twitter. You know, so maybe the quickness of it, or 140 characters, it's almost harder to say something in less words than it is to, you know, to blog about it. So I think it's important that you know what you're comfortable with. Try them all out, you know, first and foremost, try them all out. And you'll find quickly what's comfortable for you. And if Twitter's not your cup of tea, I would say just stay away from it, because that's how you can get into trouble. You do what you know.
Okay.
Or what you're comfortable with.
So what do we know about Facebook? How should we be using Facebook?
Well, you know, Facebook is really cool. It's still king in social media, and I know it's the oldest one out there, and you know, younger people aren't using it as much, but your baby boomers, they're the fastest growing demographic on Facebook, because all of a sudden they can see what their grandkids are up to, they can see what their kids are up to, and it's just kind of neat. It's also good to know, you know, there's more traffic on Facebook than there is on Google, you know, so that gives you an idea of its magnitude. But that's a place for you to, you know, share your photos, share what's happening with your family, you know, anything that you're interested in. I bought a CD today, and I put it up there. And when I say I bought a CD, I bought an album on iTunes, you know, and I just kind of let people know, and then we're having a conversation about it.
But how can you have a conversation by saying I bought a CD today?
You know, it's that thing. So I bought the CD from an artist I really like, and you know, music is universal, and all of a sudden these people that I don't call on the phone, but that I have a relationship online, start chiming in about, you know, I really love that CD, it's such a great song, you know, blah, 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 and you just kind of, the conversations blossom.
And there are some conversations that are more interesting than others.
Absolutely.
Now for Instagram.
Yes.
Who uses that, and how do you get the most out of using Instagram?
Instagram is a really good tool. Let's say if you're a retailer or you've got products to sell, it's really good for, you know, if you're a clothing store or, you know, if you're a visual medium. So let's say, you know, a lot of our local stores actually at Montecillo use it very well. You know, they'll take a photo of a new item that came in and post it up and kind of show it in its nice shape, and all of a sudden, you know, you'll go down there and you know, and buy it. But there's the cool thing about Instagram, or maybe not the cool thing, right now at the moment, you can't put a link and have it actually take you to a website. So it's all visual, and you see the photograph, and photographs I think speak louder than words a lot of the times. You know, they're the most popular posts on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course Instagram is solely a visual medium. So it's good for products really, and people that like to share photos. It happens to be my favorite go-to, just because I like to take pictures.
Everybody likes to take pictures, and it's so instant with our cell phones. How about Twitter? Who should be using Twitter? Well, anybody can use Twitter, but how do you get the most out of Twitter?
You know, I think Twitter is something you have to be comfortable with. Like you, it's not my favorite. I do have one because it's important to have one, and just to kind of see what's going on and what people are pushing out. You know, a lot of the times, you know, you can look through your feed. Sometimes I'm bored and I'm like, well, what's going on in the world? And all of a sudden I see the new intern at the congressman's office, and while I wasn't looking to learn that, it's kind of cool to know that there's a kid from Austin High School that's working with the congressman. So it's good for that. It's good for high stress situations. I remember when we had the big storm. At that point, it would have been really nice for El Paso Electric to have had one, because we had all those blackouts and they could have communicated what was going on. After that, they established a Twitter page, and then of course, you know, it's how we get our breaking news, and it's how you push it out too. It's probably the quickest way to get anything immediate out. Of course, it's also the quickest way to get in trouble.
Yes, yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. Now, let's say you sent out something that was wrong or bad or disparaging. Control. How do you do damage control? How do you fix that? It's out there. It's your footprint. It's your digital footprint. But how do you, besides an apology? Well,
you know, every situation has its own I guess solution. You know, so something like what happened with UTEP, you know, pushed it out. They deleted it, and then Darby apologized, and yes, it's a human mistake, and he did it, and he is being accountable for it. He says, you know, whatever comes to me, I deserve, I get it, you know. And then there's other cases where they can just go awry. You know, I saw one when I was doing research for today. The New York Police Department pushed out a hashtag saying, you know, because that'll categorize, you know, the conversation, to use the hashtag MyNYPD. Well, I think their intention was to have, you know, people post pictures of them with their neighborhood officer, but instead, you know, they were posting pictures of people getting beat up, and, you know, just things that they shouldn't have used. So that got quelled right away. But again, it's out there. We're talking about it, and there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, you know, there's some things that you can pick up and kind of have fun with, and there's some things that should just be left alone. And it's, again, you know, if you're crafty and kind of funny and witty about it, it'll work. But sometimes you just have to know when to apologize and move on and forget about it. But you know, everybody has a different sense of humor too.
That's something that could be funny to you may not be funny to somebody else. So you have to really be careful of what you put on there, and it's kind of hard to keep track of your professional account, your fun account, your work account. How do you do with all of that when it's all in something this big?
Well, and that's what we were talking about before. So, you know, the best part about social is that it's at your fingertips. Your mobile phone is generally the way that most people access it, and it's also generally the way that people post, you know, out there. But let's say you have multiple accounts. It's really easy to post on the wrong one or toggle. So, you know, especially if you're a brand, it's kind of, I would suggest, you know, you hire a social media manager, somebody whose solely purpose is to manage your social media. In a case like UTEP, you know, a solution would be, you know what, Darby's got a whole lot of stuff going on during the game. Have a dedicated Twitter person there to live tweet the games, and then you don't have those issues.
And then you don't even have to mess with that.
Right.
Okay, okay. Well, you're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, we'll have some more tips on how to optimize your use of social media. A lot of tips coming up. And if you'd like to share your comments or you have questions for our guest, you can call us online at 496-1775. And if you're online right now, you can email us at Estela61@yahoo.com. Twitter account is #ABC7 Extra. And you're watching ABC-7 Extra, where news comes first. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. The topic tonight, how to optimize your use of social media and not ruin your career or someone else's life. A former PR executive for Interactive Corp, which owns websites like Match.com and Dictionary.com, was fired after she tweeted, "Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS." Just kidding, I'm white. Justine Sacco apologized, but she was fired eventually. She was a communications expert and still tweeted this. The comment was deleted, but on social media, nothing really goes away. You know, kids growing up these days, they have it pretty tough because there's nothing private out there.
Everything's documented. So all those cute pictures your mom is posting of you in your pajamas, they're going to be out there forever.
Forever. Thank you for reminding me of that one. So let's talk to parents. How do you talk to parents? Because, you know, I try to keep track of my kids' stuff on the internet. What do you tell the kids?
Well, first and foremost, you know, if you're a parent, you know, you should be connected to your children's accounts. So, you know, so that you have access, so that you see what's going on, and then vice versa. I mean, you know, they see what you're doing, what you're up to too. But really, it's that common sense conversation that you have with them. You know, it's you know, if you're doing something bad, if things you don't want mom to see. Right. I mean, just keep it at that. You know, if there's something out there, or if you're doing something that you don't want me to know about as your mother, just
don't put it out there.
Don't put it out there, because it's out there.
It's out there forever. Some of the dangers of social media: identity theft.
Yes, it's important to establish a really complicated password, and I know passwords, you know, I'm that person that forgets them over and over again.
And you have to write everything down.
Yes, but it's important to have a password that has different, you know, caps, numbers, symbols, whatever you can do to kind of, you know, help you establish something that's harder to break. It's harder to break through a password that has all sorts of characters in it than just something that's a word or something as a password or 1 2 3 4. Just don't do that. You know, that's too easy. That's too easy.
Anybody can guess that. Now, everything you know about you can and will be used against you.
That is correct. That is correct. It is all out there, and you know, I think you see it a lot in news stories. You know, something happens to a person, and you can't find that person personally, but you can go to their Facebook page, and then all of a sudden, you know, you see that person's photo used as their image, because we have that access nowadays. So, yeah, anything you do can and will be used against you. Even if you're not tweeting on behalf of a company, but even as yourself, if you yourself put something out there that is detrimental, or something like that tweet that you talked about that woman did when she was going to Africa, even though she didn't do it on her professional account, that reflects on you, and you are a reflection of the people you work for.
I always say you represent yourself, your parents, your family, and your workplace.
Absolutely.
So you have to be careful of everything. Everything is traced to you as a person. You have no control over your data.
Well, you do when you put it out there.
Right, but so once that gets out there.
Once it's out there, it's a different story. You know, and you have different people feel differently about it. I'm kind of comfortable with it because I'm comfortable with what I'm pushing out there. So, you know, all of a sudden in my feed, I'll get stuff that I was looking, oh, that cute pair of boots, you know, I was looking at Nordstrom's, and all of a sudden there it is. Sometimes I get stuff that I'm like, well, who do they think I am, you know? But your data does tell people something about you. But more and more, the news and products are coming to you instead of you going to them, and it's based on your digital footprint.
And sometimes that is pretty frightening, though.
It is frightening.
Things just pop up that you searched one time, and they just pop up,
and then there they are again.
And then you're trying to get rid of them. And who are you talking to?
Well,
because you don't know who you're talking to.
You're talking to the world. It's the World Wide Web. Whatever you put out there, it's out there. And you know, I can't say that enough, because it's true. You know, whatever you push out is going to be out there permanently. I think we were talking about your blog, and you were saying how, you know, in hindsight, maybe you put a little too much out there, but I mean, people are still using that as a tool to relate to your experience, and that's kind of neat.
You know, 5 years ago when I started that blog on my journey with thyroid cancer, I did put out a lot of information, a lot of personal information, but with the goal to help other women and men who are going through thyroid disease feel like they weren't alone. It's kind of like a support group. But now I look back that maybe I put out too much information. But then I get calls from women saying, you know, I looked at your blog and I feel so much better because I'm feeling the same way you are. So I guess if you do it with the intent that it's going to be for the greater good, it's going to be okay. So think about that.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, it might be something really personal, but at the same time, well, it's something personal that you've helped a lot of people through, and that's kind of nice to know too, you know?
And perhaps to put it out there with a meaning and with a purpose.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We have Nick on the phone. Nick, good evening.
Yeah, I'd like to know about why you didn't mention tagging, because if you have just a few followers or, you know, maybe 150, something like that, and you tag, you reach like almost 10 times that, because you get into places that you wouldn't be able to by tagging, even though you're not somebody's friend. Okay,
good question.
Well, you can only be tagged by somebody that you are a friend with, but you're right. So let's say I tag you in a photo that I posted. Well, all of a sudden, all 1,000 of my friends and their friends can see that image.
Right.
And it's out there. But again, you as the user, you know when you're being tagged, and you have the authority to remove that tag.
Okay.
So, you know, you do have control, and there are privacy settings in place for you to use, and I highly recommend that you use them.
I do have, I'm really bad at going through Facebook and stuff, but there are some settings that you can get rid of and block special people that you just don't want to hear about either, or that you don't want to tag. So you have some control over that as well.
You do. I mean, you have control over who is your friend first and foremost. And when you say friend in social media terms, it's not like you know, you're going to the barbecue, you know, but it's your friend on social, and you're okay with these people knowing whatever information or photographs you're pushing out there. And even within that, you can control, you know, which of your friends can see more of you, which of them can see less. And same thing on you, you know, there's some people that you know and love, but after a while you don't need to see whatever, you know, their 10th marathon or whatever, so you can opt out too, you know. So it is a two-way street in that regard. It's not just because somebody tagged you all of a sudden you're out there.
I think people also need to understand that what a friend is on Facebook. Just because you friend someone doesn't mean you're going to have a relationship with them.
Right. I mean, it's
Do you think people know that?
I hope so, but by now they should.
Let's hope
you know,
so.
The term friend is a loose term, and it's really somebody that you're connected to, that whose information you want to know about, and whose information you don't mind. You know, you share with them as well. So that's what a friend is. Same thing with an RSVP. Please don't take an RSVP on Facebook or Twitter or anything seriously, because it's just a button that they click, and it helps you get more people to see it.
You know, being in the public eye and having the different Facebook pages, people do send in some very inappropriate comments. How do you deal with that? These so-called friends or people that you friend, how do you deal with that? Do you just get rid of them, or do you respond, or do you? What I like to do is that I write something up and then I just don't send it.
That's good therapy. Yeah, it's
like you did it, my chest.
You didn't do it. Yes,
right.
And that's really it. Especially as a public figure, you know, you're out there, and you know, yeah, people think they can tell you what to wear, or hey, that color didn't look good on you, or I don't like your hair, or whatever. And half of the time, you know, you just. Really, you ignore it.
You ignore it. Okay, that's the best thing to do.
That's the best thing to do.
It'll keep you out of trouble, because you're going to lose, always going to lose if you say something disparaging.
Yes, you know, even like in person, you know, there's a certain kind of crazy you just don't entertain, because it'll just snowball on you, and that'll just get out of control. So there's things that you just don't engage in, and then there's things that you just
ignore.
Let go.
Some good advice. And reminder, we are live and you can join the conversation. Just give us a call at, there it is, your number, 496-1775, Estela61@yahoo.com, or hashtag ABC-7 Extra. We'll be right back. And welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. Jerome Tillman writes to us and he says, remain discerning, stay dressed, stay dignified. Remember the 3Ds. Hello. That's all.
Common sense.
That's common sense. And somebody else writes, it's very important to educate the community on its use, especially for 21st century students and workers. Should be more education and engagement of its use in schools and awareness among families of safety measures for children. It should be a good discussion at home.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and it's the same discussion if you're doing something out there that you don't want me as your mother to see,
don't put it out there.
Don't put it out there. That's just a good, solid rule. But, you know, there are tremendous benefits, especially if you're a brand or a business, you know, because that's where people are, and that's where your consumer is, and that's your opportunity to engage with them and show them the voice that you want to portray. You know, all of a sudden, you know, you get behind the scenes into, you know, oh, my favorite baker, you know, he's putting in all this beautiful ingredients and all this love and time. You like to see that, especially if you already have, you know, if you've already bought into a brand, you know, you like to know, well, what else are they doing, you know, and all of a sudden it becomes kind of nice. And then as a brand, you then build advocates for yourself that didn't really cost you anything. I mean, all you did is post a photo or, you know, something that's going on behind the scenes, and it's a good...
And it blossomed from there.
Yes, it's a nice two-way street.
So there are a lot of benefits. You were saying that there are more benefits than pitfalls to using social media?
I do believe that, yes. You know, it's the quickest way to stay in touch. It's the nice way, you know. It's still nice to call your mom, but your mom's seeing you on Facebook, so you know there's photos out there, or you know you can share grandkids, pictures, milestones in your life, just any kind of accomplishment, you know, that you feel good about, that you want to share with everybody. It's the quickest way to do that, and then it's also the quickest way for people to stay in touch with you too. You know, I like to know what my friends, even my childhood friends, you know, that they live in Miami or, you know, Colorado, whatever, but I know that they went fishing today and they had a good time, and it's nice, you know?
I sometimes think that people just put the nice things out. I think that many times you see all these fabulous trips and all this fabulous food and all this fabulous life, and you think, you know, that's not how it really is.
Yeah, no, that's true. But again, you know, it's a controlled message. You're in charge of what you put out there. So, you know, do you want everybody to know your bad business? Do you want everybody to know you're having financial troubles? I mean, is that a conversation you would have with somebody at work anyway?
But you could help. But you could probably get some help.
Well, possibly.
Possibly. We have Elizabeth on the call. She's from the West Side. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, yes. When you get cyberbullied on social media, or you have somebody that's being mean to you, how do you suggest dealing with that other than lashing out to them? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's important not to engage in that way, you know, because the moment you buy into it, then, you know, you're in that cycle. So, you know, there's people that are out there to be abusive, and if you engage with them, it's going to get complicated. I think in those cases, the best thing to do is to not engage, and then you, on your end, have the power to not be connected with that person anymore. They can't just talk to you without you being able to control that message back. Yes, and the way you talk to them is by disconnecting them and shutting yourself off from them and not giving them access to you.
To your things.
Yes.
Okay. If you had 3 things to say that people can walk away with through this conversation, what would they be? The benefits and the pitfalls of social media. What do you want people to remember?
The most obvious one is, you know, common sense. If you wouldn't send it in an email, if you wouldn't say it to somebody in their face, if you're not willing to deal with the consequences of what you're putting out there, then don't do it.
Okay.
Number 2, work on mediums that you are comfortable with, because that way, you know, you're less inclined to make a mistake, and that's important. And then number 3, be conscious of what you're putting out there, you know, because it reflects a lot on you, your family, and the people you work for. So those are the top 3 tips. For a brand or a business, I would say, you know, be authentic, show people the behind the scenes stuff, and you know, have a two-way conversation with your consumer.
Well, we just had a great conversation tonight. I hope a lot of people learned about the things to do and not to do in social media, and to have fun with it, but also have a purpose, and be careful what you put out there.
Yes, common sense.
Marina, thank you very much. Barricuda PR, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you so much, Estela.
And thank you all for watching. Have a good night, everybody.